Hey everyone, I'm Matt from Matt Lenhart Coaching. I am a financial coach, and so I thought maybe it would be good to have a video where I explain in a little more detail what that means exactly. So the way I pose the question is, what is a financial coach, and do you need one? And I can give you a spoiler for the second part of the question. The answer is no, you don't need one. But I'm going to explain through this some of the situations where it would make sense for you, and you may potentially want to get a coach. And so my tagline here is making sense of the options for financial help. And I will spend time in this video comparing a financial coach to a financial planner. I think it's hard to do one without the other because financial planners are so prevalent in the world. We see advertisements for them everywhere. If you use social media, you probably see it there as well. So I'm just going to do a comparison with them. They kind of cover different parts of personal finance. So I think it's important to know the differences and just when you might need one versus another. So, financial coaches offer guidance for short term personal finance topics. So, these are the things that will affect you from one day to the next. And so, just some examples that are here are understanding the basics of personal finance. So, bank accounts, interest rates, how credit works. Maybe you have a bank account, but you don't really understand how it works. It's just one you signed up for a really long time ago and you've just been using it. But maybe you just like some advice on, is this good for me? Should I look for something else? Same with interest rates. Are you getting a good interest rate? Could you do better elsewhere without really affecting your life in any way? And for credit, a lot of people don't even understand how that works. What is credit? What are they looking at? How do you make it better? Those are the types of foundational things that a coach can help with. Also, on the foundation side, creating and maintaining a budget. That's something I focus on a lot. And I've done videos on it for building a new budget and using YNAB to do that. And this is another core component of personal finance, having a budget, knowing how much you plan to spend and how much you actually spend, and making sure that's aligned with your priorities. A big part of coaching is encouraging better financial habits. So this is more of the behavioral aspect of personal finance. So trying to spend less, save more, pay down your debt. These are the things that will come up every single day. You're faced with a purchasing decision. Should you do it? Should you not do it? What are the things you're considering to make sure that you're staying on track with what you want to do? And similarly, the next one is just accountability. Sometimes it's helpful to just have somebody there that can check in with you every month and just make sure you're sticking to the things that you've been learning, that you've been trying, that you need to stay on your plan. So these are just some examples of what a financial coach can do, but it really is focusing on the things that impact you every day or every month. So looking at the short term. On the other side, a financial planner or a financial advisor, and I use those terms interchangeably, I look at them as the same thing. They focus on helping people achieve longer term goals, and in particular, retirement. Most of the time, when you see things about financial planners, it's really talking about retirement. So they're going to be looking at what do you need your money to do for you 20 years from now, 30 years from now. It's going to depend on your age and how close you are to retirement, but they're generally looking at what's your money going to do for you a long time from now. So that's the core difference between the two. Planners can also assist with more complicated financial situations. So if you have anything that impacts like taxes, or potentially have things like multiple marriages or children from different families, they can help you try to make sense of that. Though sometimes you might have to get the help of an attorney, like an estate attorney, or a tax accountant, might have to get involved to really get the whole picture for you and come up with a plan. Now, of course, when you're getting into that sort of thing, you're talking some higher fees. I mean, these are not discount services. These are usually fairly expensive, but you may need this. Depending on what you have going on, it does make sense. Those fees will make sense for you. So again, just depends on what you have going on, but that's another aspect of financial planning that's different from coaching. Okay, so just trying to compare financial coaches and financial planners a little more. Again, financial coaches are going to focus on the short term or the day to day or the month to month. So these are things in the near term that are impacting your daily life, spending money, saving money, just making sense of all that and making sure that you're sticking to your plan in the short term because that's going to impact your long term. There's a lot of focus for coaches on building knowledge, so understanding personal finance better, and on the behavioral aspects. Again, building good habits, sticking to those habits, remaining accountable, and making sure that you're not you're falling off your plan that you wanted to build because you had a specific goal in mind. For financial coaches, at least the way they should work and the way I work is it's a flat fee. If you want an individual session, you just pay a fee for that session and that's it. You may also choose to do something for a set period of time and you pay the fee for that, but that's it. You can, whenever you feel like you've gotten what you need out of it, there's no obligation to continue and you can go on your way. And as you'll see at the end of this list, that is the ultimate goal, that you will eventually have exactly what you need to feel autonomous financially. Coaches really apply to any situation. I mentioned before that planners are really focused on, not necessarily focused, but they're better for the complicated financial situations. So things that are getting a little bit messy. But a coach can help anybody. If your situation's simple, if you're single and you just don't really have a lot of complicated tax situations, a coach can still help. Of course, we can help you set up a budget and come up with a short-term plan, help you increase your knowledge about different aspects of the personal finance world. Or if you do have a really complex situation and maybe you are working with a financial planner, they're not going to talk to you about a budget. They're not going to talk to you about your spending and your saving day to day, but a financial coach will do that. And so, as I mentioned, the end goal of coaching is really to not need coaching. Hopefully, by the time you're done, you've gotten all the knowledge you need to understand personal finance and credit or whatever your questions are. You have a budget in place, you know how to work the budget, you know how to track it month to month, and you just don't need coaching anymore. So, the way I look at it is if I've done my job, I've taught you enough that you don't feel like you need to work with me anymore. And that's my ultimate goal. I do not want you to be dependent upon me. So again, coaching, the end goal is you don't need coaching. So comparing to a financial planner, again, they're focused on the long term and the future. What do you want to do with your money in the future, far from now? They're going to be more investment focused. So they're going to look at how are you investing your money? How much money do you have to invest? What exactly are you investing in? And they're generally going to help you plan a strategy to build your wealth over time for those larger term goals like obviously retirement. Maybe you have some really big fun goal in mind, like traveling the world or something, and they'll help you figure out how do you make sure you have enough money set aside to do that. When it comes to fees, financial planners are very different. So they're typically going to charge an annual fee based on their assets under management. That's AUM. And what that means is you're going to be giving a financial planner your money to invest, and they will manage that money for you. And in exchange, you will pay them a fee on that amount of money, and usually a percentage. And most typically, it's 1%, but it's different for every place. But typically, it's 1%. You're going to pay that fee whether you make money with them or you lose money. It doesn't matter. Whatever money they're managing over the course of a year, you're going to pay 1% of that. Financial planners also and advisory firms, they oftentimes will sell insurance and other products, and that's where things get a little bit iffy. Because generally, if they're a financial planner, you want them planning what you're going to do with your money long term. And when they start selling you other things, then things get a little bit muddy. So you just have to watch out for that. If you are looking for a financial planner, try to just stick to the planning part of it and handle your insurance elsewhere. That would be my advice. And I also put an asterisk on that one just because not every financial planner is that way. Some do offer a fee only service. And I have a couple of examples at the end here where I talk about that. But most typically, it is a percentage of your assets under management. Financial planners are best to help with complex financial situations, as I mentioned. So if you have a really simple financial situation, financial planners are usually overkill. And a lot of people like to just say they have a financial planner. It makes them feel good that they have this person that's managing their money. I don't know if it makes them feel like they have a lot of money or something, but it seems like people like to mention that they have a person that manages their money. But if you have a relatively simple situation, for example, you're married and you have two children, you've only had one marriage, you probably don't need a financial planner for that. But if you have, children and stepchildren, and you have, you've been divorced a couple of times, in those situations, things are much more complicated, and you probably do need some help to make sure that you're doing everything you need to not, have to pay excessive taxes and things like that. So just keep that in mind that if you feel like your situation is pretty simple, you probably don't need to pay all these fees. And when I say all these fees, that's because usually a financial planner relationship is ongoing, and it can even be generational. Oftentimes you will have people who use a financial planner for their entire lives, and then when their children inherit their money, they continue to use that financial planner. And that is their goal. Of course, they want you to work with them forever. And then they want your children to work with them too, to continue managing your money. And that also comes with a little bit of tension if you ever decide to leave. So a financial coach, you're paying a flat fee and you can walk away anytime whenever you feel like you've learned everything you need to, and you can do it yourself. When it comes to a financial planner, you can leave. It's your choice to leave. But if you can get out of there without getting a lecture, you're very lucky. Normally, you're going to have to go through some paperwork. You're going to have to formally request leaving and requesting your money and transferring it elsewhere. And you oftentimes will get a stern email from your advisor who wants to know why are you doing this? You're taking money away from me. This is how I make my living, that kind of thing. And that's just something to keep in mind as well. So again, the more complicated, the more this makes sense. The less complicated, the less it makes sense. Okay, so to the question, do you need a financial coach or a financial planner? You've probably gathered from the video so far that you do not. You do not need one. And I would say that I've said this a couple of times, but financial coaches are similar to personal trainers in fitness. You do not need one, but they can be really helpful for creating a short-term plan. In the case of personal finance, that would be a budget. Building habits, that would be like conscious spending, thinking more about when you make a purchase, what does it mean? What am I giving up for that? I'm not just spending money because I feel like it. I'm spending money because it's a priority to me, this whatever it is I'm buying. And I know that I'm not giving anything else up, or that I'm okay with giving something else up. And then just increasing your overall knowledge. It's personal finance is not easy. There's a lot of complicated terms and complicated things that you need to know about. And so it's helpful to just understand all of that. But again, the goal of a coach is to give you what you need so that you can do it yourself, and then you don't need a coach long term. And that's the case with a personal trainer too. They might be able to just teach you what you need, a good workout routine, a good diet. And once you have a handle on it, you probably don't need them anymore. Similarly, most people don't need a financial planner. And I've already discussed this quite a bit. A lot of people have simple financial situations and they don't need it. And you can invest yourself. There are plenty of places you can go and you can invest for no fees. Depending on the situation, usually you have to use their funds potentially, but you don't have to pay fees. And you can just do all of this yourself if you have a little know-how. Or you can use an alternative like a robo-advisor, where it's just an automated platform. You give it money and it just automatically invests, but you don't have to pay an individual a large fee. They use a smaller fee for that service. You're not getting everything you would out of a financial planner. You're not going to get like a personal touch necessarily, but you might get all you need, which is just, I don't understand investing, just do it for me. So that is an option. There are some people, though, again, with complicated financial situations that will need a planner, or really should have a planner, and potentially, like I said, an attorney or a tax accountant to just make sense of all of this. And for them, the ongoing fee will be worth it. It's indispensable because it's so complicated, and they would have to know so much that it'd be very hard for an individual to understand it all. And so, in those cases, it does make sense for a financial planner. So I hope this helps. Again, these services aren't 100% necessary, of course, but there are definitely cases where it does make a lot of sense for you. Financial planner, I think, is a little more cut and dry. If it's complicated, yes. If it's not complicated, no. Financial coaching really applies to everybody. If you have some parts of personal finance you don't understand, or you need some help just getting started and coming up with a plan and some habits, then a coach makes sense no matter how complicated your situation is. So I mentioned I have some resources just to help if you're interested in some of the alternatives. So if you do want to try investing on your own, financial coaches don't really talk about investing directly. I mean, we give advice about that you should invest and maybe just some places to go to get started, but we don't really get into here's what you should invest in, or here's how many stocks you should have versus bonds. We don't really get into that. But if you're interested in that topic and you do want to try doing it yourself, my suggestion is to read the book Boglehead's Guide to Investing. It's a very blunt, straightforward, realistic book that doesn't sugarcoat anything. But it will give you the basics on investing. And that is my style. I don't like to sugarcoat things. I don't like to pretend that everything is all flowery and perfect. It just tells you the facts, how to invest. It explains a lot of what I mentioned in here in terms of paying fees and things and trying to avoid them. And I think it's the best place for anyone to start if you don't know anything about investing or you want to learn more about investing. If you're interested in the robo-advisor option, which is kind of a hands-off approach, you don't have to do it yourself, but you also don't have to pay 1% fee or higher, or be presented with additional products they want you to buy. These are a couple of the options I would recommend. I've used all of these before, and I think they're good options for people that, again, if you've never invested before or you don't know a lot about investing, these can do it for you. And they'll do it for a small fee, 0.25%. Again, it is a fee. You do have to pay it, but it is a much lower fee, and it's really for people who just don't want to be involved in buying investments, managing them. They just want someone else to do it, but they don't necessarily want to get into the whole financial planning thing where you got a whole lot of other services going on. So the ones I listed here are Betterment, Wealthfront, and Vanguard Digital Advisor. They all have different fees. These might not be 100% accurate when you're looking at this because it sometimes changes. Although I will say Betterment and Wealthfront have held steady at 0.25% for a very, very long time. But you can check them out. Literally, they're like a bank account. You just deposit money and then it will invest it for you. You can always request to take it back out, although it will warn you about taxes. But those are really nice options for people who want a hands-off approach, but they don't want to get into signing up for a financial advisor firm. And if you're interested in fee-based advisors, so you do like the human advisor option, but you don't want to pay the ongoing 1% fee, then the two that I know of, and I don't know all of them, I'm sure there's many more, but one I've seen a lot is PlanVision. And just a fair warning, when you do something like this, it is not the white glove service. It is not just come on in, tell us what you have, give us your money, we'll take care of everything for you. You'll pay a flat fee and you're going to do some work. They're going to give you work to do. And when you pay to meet with them, you need to be prepared. And Betterment also offers a fee-only advisory service. So if you just want to meet just for an hour about a couple questions, you can do that with them as well. So I hope this was helpful just to understand the differences between the two. And in some cases where a financial coach might make sense for you, all my links are in the description if you're interested. Until the next video, have a good day.